Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for asking me to speak a few words. My name is Visakha Dasi. I was trained as a professional photographer, and between 1970 and 1977, I photographed Srila Prabhupada in India, the US, Canada, and Europe. Sometimes, along with my husband, Yadubara Prabhu, who is a cinematographer. Today I've been asked to reflect on my experiences of Srila Prabhupada interacting with and engaging his female followers, the Vaishnavis. In my observation and experience, although Srila Prabhupada came from a society with orthodox gender roles, if some service for Krishna was required, he saw no reason to prohibit a woman from doing that service. For example, he once asked me to travel alone in an overflowing Indian train to deliver a message. Srila Prabhupada was establishing Bhakti, Krishna consciousness, freedom from designations. He was not establishing orthodox gender roles. And to establish Bhakti, devotional service to Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Prabhupada was prioritizing Bhakti's universal principle that everybody is divine in themselves and is allowed to serve Krishna in a myriad of ways. For Srila Prabhupada, the purpose of tradition, of society, and of life itself was to make progress in Bhakti. When tradition helped that progress, Prabhupada promoted it unreservedly. And when tradition didn't lead to progress in Bhakti, Srila Prabhupada disregarded it. For example, sometimes I traveled with and photographed Srila Prabhupada for months while my husband was serving elsewhere. Srila Prabhupada's promotion of tradition was baffling to some. But I could see that tradition illumined by Bhakti is beautiful. Rather than fit into some stereotype, hackneyed and restrictive role, it was dynamic and unbinding. Once when Srila Prabhupada was asked if a woman could be temple president, and another time if a woman could be an initiating spiritual master, both times Srila Prabhupada replied yes. For Srila Prabhupada, Bhakti, not gender, was the issue. The whole idea was to keep the goal, unmotivated devotional service to Krishna, clearly in view, and to steadily move toward it. Srila Prabhupada was the maestro, conducting a full orchestra in a complex classical composition, and the overall effect was beautiful. Plus, the way that music flowed in Prabhupada's character was irresistible. From the moment I'd met him, all I'd experienced was his encouragement. He aroused in me a spirit of voluntary, enthusiastic service. He generated an atmosphere of fresh challenge, and I enthusiastically agreed to rise and try to meet it. He drew out my spontaneous, loving spirit of sacrificing my energy for Krishna. He appreciated my efforts. He wanted me to be all I could be for Krishna. I never sensed a smidgen of male chauvinism or misogyny, superiority or self-righteousness, hubris or haughtiness in him. Neither a whiff of desire to exploit, oppress, or repress women or anyone else. Srila Prabhupada put us in touch with our uniqueness. He spoke of graceful, harmonious, spiritual relationships in which everyone benefits and everyone is deeply fulfilled. In his words, by the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, anyone can do anything, for the Lord is present in everything, all things being his parts and parcels, and increasing or decreasing by His supreme will. Once on a morning walk in Los Angeles' Venice Beach, Prabhupada put the gender issue to rest for me. I was draped with cameras and recording equipment, and 30 feet in front of him. 20 men clustered behind him and to the sides of him, as he walked with assured, brisk steps and was commenting on gender differences. Then, with a glimmer in his eye, Prabhupada looked at me and said, "Don't you mind," while continuing to look at me curiously, as if waiting to see my reaction. I looked at him, smiled, and in my mind I yelled, "Aham Brahmasmi. You've taught me that I'm a spiritual being, and you've taught me to appreciate and utilize my feminine nature, to see it as an asset for me and for society, and to see it's a favorable platform for devotional growth. So Prabhupada, I don't mind." Srila Prabhupada tirelessly and repeatedly taught all of us that we are not our body, mind, or intelligence, but a transcendent spiritual being. His reference to us as men or women was not a reference to our actual being. We're a soul. He was referring to something external to us, our physical and subtle bodies. Prabhupada was describing something that we are wearing and using, as much as an airline steward explains how to wear and use a life jacket. Gender differences were details. Once, I remember photographing an initiation of 100 devotees. When one of them came before Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada noted his torn dhoti. Prabhupada turned to a nearby leader and said, "You must take proper care of all these men and women. All the devotees must be fully cared for. They are giving their lives to Krishna." Srila Prabhupada cared about each one of us and led us on the best of all adventures, the discovery of the wealth of our own hearts. He offered us to Krishna and inspired us to be completely pleased and joyful, being Krishna's servant, a servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you.